So shooting during the pandemic. Today, we're going to talk to you about techniques, tips, and tricks on shooting videography and photography during COVID-19. So let's roll.
So welcome back to the channel, guys. My name's Janaka, we have Steven here, and this is a channel about photography, videography, droning, and tech. So if that's your jam, please like and subscribe below. So today I just got word that the wedding I had booked for this year is gonna go forward. And to be honest, I'm a little nervous. Steven has been shooting with the TSO, the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, so he has an idea of what's going on out there, and I would love to know and pick his brain about what I can expect when I get there for my shoot.
Autofocus, manual focus, any kind of focus. All right, so essentially, as a videographer, photographer, you still have to work during this pandemic. And I have had the good fortune, and I'm very grateful, of being able to work of late with different organizations here in Toronto in all sorts of vocations, whether that's going to be as a videographer for a construction company or a videographer for a symphony orchestra. What I've come to learn and how the new shooting environment is developing is that it's really important to make sure you have a game plan before you arrive at your shoot. Obviously, gear and tech and making sure you have hand sanitizer and gloves or a mask or all of those sort of things are kind of par for the course. The tricks that I've learned now is kind of to ask what the shoot is going to be like coming up. So for example, talking to the coordinator or client or the organizer of the event or of the shoot and know what the numbers are. Know what the protocols are in place, know what the restrictions are, and know what kind of insurance you might need to have or any kind of coverage that you might need for this shoot to be done safely. Sorry, we need to put some hand sanitizer on your hands. There you go, that's it.
Quick fire questions. Number one, do you need insurance? And if so, do you provide it? Or does the venue provide it? Or does the client provide it?
That's a really tricky topic because not every venue or not every client is going to have that insurance ahead of time. I would personally always look into a third-party insurance for obviously your gear and for the materials that you have, but in this case, look into COVID insurance. Many providers are now offering this, and it can be a peace of mind that you're going to have, and it's not too expensive actually in many cases to get one-day coverage for your shoot.
Re-ask the question. Okay, so number two, what kind of PPE, personal protective equipment, do I need, and do I need to wear that mask the entire time?
So, three things you need to have: a mask, hand sanitizer, and the gloves I left in my car. So three things that are really important to have on your shoot with you. They meet requirements, they meet standards of the venue, they meet standards of whatever government practices in place for COVID protocols, and they just protect you. They give you the first line of defense when you're shooting in an environment that you're not familiar with or you haven't been to.
Okay, question three. Do I have to get tested before my shoot? And if so, how recent do I have to have that test?
So this is a tricky one, and one I would suggest if the gig is more than a couple days, I would suggest getting a test. If you're going to be working on a shoot for a couple days in a row, this gives peace of mind to yourself, to your employer, to the organization that's doing the gig, that you have that test in place. Now don't forget, tests are delayed for the results. You might get tested on a Monday and you might not hear back for a couple of days of the test results. So take that into consideration. You might not find out until after your gig is done. So you don't need to have a test, but depending upon the gig, it might not be a bad idea.
And lastly, what if my client or the venue aren't following the rules and I just don't feel safe?
If you don't feel safe, don't do it. Kind of exists for all things in life, and especially in this. If for whatever reason you do not feel like the shooting conditions and the shooting environment is safe to your health, you have to let that be known to your client. I mean, the worst thing we do as self-employed contractors is that we don't often look out for our own interests when going to a gig. We always focus on what the client needs. And also write this in a contract. Have it written in your contract that you have to have a safe shooting environment in which to work in.
I had a clause in my pre-COVID contracts that said if I don't feel safe, if for whatever reason I'm being harassed or abused, I could just walk away. And that's just par for the course, that you should have something like that in your contracts.
Exactly, because no one's going to look out for you. The only person who's going to look out for you as a videographer, as a photographer, is yourself or your second shooter. Those 4 questions are really helpful. Now, what about shooting styles and techniques of your subject? Now, pre-COVID, it was great to have your camera on a gimbal and be able to walk up to get really awesome close angles at your subject. Things we would never consider now before COVID happened. Unfortunately, you have to be able to adapt your gear and your kit set in order to get the results safely, both for yourself as well as for your client. This can include lenses that are a zoom lens, stands and tripods, lavalier mics, basically ways of creating that 6 feet of distance or 6 meters of distance, depending upon where you're located and what country you're located in, that allow for a safe shooting environment.
And don't forget to think about how you're gonna pose your clients, because at a wedding, traditionally, you had the entire bridal party together. Maybe not so anymore. So that mental preparation you're gonna do before you show up, think about exactly how that day is gonna go. Think about what COVID regulations that you're gonna have to abide by when doing regular things like posing people. And if you're gonna use something like a lav mic, make sure that you have the proper way of sanitizing it before changing your clients. Thank you. And definitely make sure that you have a way of keeping track with the latest regulations and the latest news that's really accurate. For us here in Canada, CBC News is a great way of keeping up to date with what the provincial government is going to recommend. Even pre-COVID, you are a trusted advisor and a consultant that your client is going to look towards for the best practices.
Because ultimately, you want to work safely and you want to continue working. You want to be able to do videography during this time. And right now, more than ever, everyone is digesting digital content. If you're doing videography as a profession, if you're doing it as a hobby, take these ideas, take these tips and tricks and apply them to your work process coming up. The best thing you can have during a pandemic is sometimes a drone, because I kid you not, these little things can actually get a really good angle. They can get close to your subject, safety in mind obviously, but you can get footage maybe in a larger group setting if you don't feel comfortable shooting. Nothing wrong with popping a drone up and getting aerial perspective looking down or looking straight at your subject. So drones, yeah, it's their time to shine.
Okay, so there you guys have it. These are our recommendations for how to take film and shoot in COVID times. We might miss something. So for all of you commenting below, please comment on what you think we've missed.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Or what you think you actually really like that you never thought of. And until next time,
just invest in hand sanitizer.
Stay safe, and we'll catch you later. Bye.